Chapter 11 of Taking the Bastile by Alexandre Dumas, translated by Henry L. Williams. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. The Prison Governor. Bastile looked at the moss-grown edifice, resembling the monsters of fable covered with scales. He counted the embrasures where the great guns might be run out again, and the wall guns which opened their ominous eye to peer through the loopholes. He shook his head, recalling Flacella's words. "We'll never get in," he muttered. "Why never?" questioned a voice at his elbow. Turning, he saw a wild-looking beggar in rags, but with eyes glittering like stars in their hollow sockets. "Because it is hard to take such a pile by main strength." "Taking the Bastile is not a matter of strength," replied the mendicant, "but an act of faith. Have as little faith as a grain of mustard seed, and yet you can overturn a mountain. Believe we can do it, and good night, Bastile." "Wait a bit," muttered Bastile, fumbling for Marat's recommendation in his pocket. "Wait," reiterated the vagabond, mistaking his mind. "Yes, I can understand you being willing to wait, for you are a farmer, and have always had more than enough to make you fat. But look at my mates, the death's heads and raw bones surrounding us. See their veins dried up. Count their bones through the holes in their tatters, and ask them if they know what waiting in patience means." "This man speaks glibly, but he frightens me," remarked Bastile. "He does not frighten me," replied Bastile. Then, turning to the stranger, he went on. "I say patience, because in a quarter hour yet we shall do." "I can't call that much," answered the vagrant, smiling. "But how much better off we will be then." "I shall have visited the Bastile by then," rejoined the farmer revolutionist. "I shall know how strong the garrison is, and the governor's intention. I shall, in short, have a glimpse of how we can get in." "It will do, if you see how to get out." "Well, as to that, if I do not come out, I know a man who will fetch me out." "Who is he?" "Gutenberg, the people's spokesman, their orator, their Mirabeau." "You don't know him," said the man, his eyes flashing fire. "So how do you make that out?" "I am going to know him. I was told that the first person I addressed on Bastille Square would take me to him. You are on the spot. Lead me to him." "What do you want of him?" "To hand him this paper from Surgeon Marat, whom I have just left at the City Hall, whence he was marching to the Invalides to get muskets for his 20,000 men." "In this case, hand over the paper. I am Gutenberg, friends," added the vagabond, as Bastile drew back a step. "Here is a chap who does not know me, and asks if I am really Gutenberg." The mass burst into laughter. It seemed impossible that their favorite should not be known to all. "Long life to Gutenberg!" was the shout. "There you are," said Bastile, passing the paper to him. "Mates," said the popular leader, having read, and slapping the bearer on the shoulder, "this is a brother whom Marat recommends, so you may rely on him. What is your name, pal?" "Bastile." "My name is Axe. Do you see? Between us, I hope we shall cut something." The mob laughed at this ominous pun. "Aye, somebody will get cut," was the cry. How are we to set about it?"
"We are going right into there," answered Gauchamp, pointing to the building.
"That is the right kind of talk," said the farmer. "How many have you, Gauchamp?"
30 skeletons.
30,000 of yours, and 20 coming from the soldiers' hospital, 10,000 here, more than enough to succeed, if we are to succeed."
"We shall," replied the beggar king.
"I believe you. Get your men in hand while I go in and summon the governor to surrender. If he should, so much the better, as it will spare bloodshed. If not, the blood will fall on his head, and it is bad luck these times. Ask those German dragoons who hewed down the inoffensive."
"How long will you be engaged with the governor?"
"As long as I can make it, so as to have the castle invested thoroughly, if possible. The moment I come out, begin the onset."
"Enough said."
"You don't distrust me?" said the countryman, holding out his hand to the city ragamuffin.
"I distrust you,"
replied the other, shaking with his emaciated hand the plump one of the farmer, with a vigor he had not expected.
"Wherefore, with a word or a sign, I could have you ground into dust, though you were sheltered by yon towers, which tomorrow will exist not. Were you protected by those soldiers, who will be our dead meat, or we shall be theirs. Go ahead and rely on Gauchamp, as he does on Belay."
Convinced, the farmer walked toward the Bastile gateway. With his new comrade, proceeded toward the dwellings, under cheers for the People's Mirabeau.
"I never saw the other Mirabeau," thought Pitou, "but ours is not handsome."
Toward the city, the Bastile presented two twin towers, while its two sides faced where the canal runs today. The entrance was defended by an outpost house, two lines of sentinels, and two drawbridges over moats. After getting over these obstacles, one reached the government yard, where the governor's residence was. Hence, a corridor led to the ditches. Another entrance, also leading to the ditches, had a drawbridge, a guardhouse, and an iron grating as portcullis. At the first entry they stopped Belay, but he showed the Flacella introduction, and they did not turn him back. Perceiving that Pitou followed him, as he would have locked steps with him and marched up to the moon, he said,
"Stay outside. If I do not return, it will be well for somebody to be around to remind the people that I went in."
"Just so. How long shall I wait?"
"An hour."
"What about the casket?"
inquired the youth.
"If I do not come out, if Gauchamp does not take the Bastile, or if, having taken it, I am not to be found, tell Dr. Guilbert, who may be found, that men from Paris stole the box he entrusted to me 5 years ago, that on arriving in town I learnt he was put in the Bastile, whence I strove to rescue him, but left my skin, which was entirely at his service."
"Very good, Father Belay," said the peasant. "It is rather long, and I am afraid of forgetting it."
"I will repeat it."
"Better write it," said a voice hard by.
"I cannot write,"
rejoined Belay. "I can, for I am clerk to the Châtelet prison. My name is Maillard, Stanislaus Maillard." He was a man of 45, tall and slim, grave, and clad in black as became such a functionary. He drew a writing case from his pocket containing writing materials.
"He looks devilish, like an undertaker,"
muttered Pitou. "You say," said the clerk, imperturbably writing, "that men from Paris took from your dwelling a casket entrusted to you by Dr. Guilbert. That is an offense to begin with."
"They belong to the Paris police."
"Infamous theft," said Maillard. "Here is your memorandum, young man," he added, giving the note to Ange. "If he be slain, it is to be hoped that both of us will not. I will do it if you both go down."
"Thank you,"
said Belay, giving his hand to the clerk, who grasped it with more power than one might accredit to the meagre frame.
"So I may rely on you?"
"As on Marat and Gauchin."
"Such triplets are not born every day," thought Pitou, who only said, "Be prudent, Father Belay."
"Do not forget that the most prudent thing in France is courage,"
said the farmer with his blunt eloquence, sometimes startling in his rough body. He passed the first line of sentinels while Pitou backed out. At the bridge he had to parley, but it was lowered on his showing his pass, and the iron grating was raised. Behind the portcullis was the governor. This inner yard was the prisoners' exercise ground. 8 giant towers guarded it. No window opened into it. The sun never penetrated its well-like circuit where the pavement was damp, almost muddy. Here a clock, the face upheld by chained captives in carving, dropped the seconds like water oozing through a ceiling on the dungeon slabs. At the bottom of this pit, the prisoner, lost in the stony gulf, would glance up at the inexorable nakedness and sue to be led back into his cell. Governor Lannes was about 50 years of age. He wore a gray, linsey-woolsey suit this day. It was crossed by a red sash of the Order of St. Louis, and he carried a sword cane. He was a bad man. Linguet's memoirs had just shown him up in a sad light, and he was hated almost as much as the jail. His father had been governor before him. The officers here were on the purchase system, so that the officials tried to make all the money they could squeeze out of the prisoners and their friends. The governor, chief warder, doubled his 60,000-franc appointments by extortion. In the way of meanness, Lannes outdid his foregoers. He may have had to pay more highly for the post than his father, and so had to put on the screw to retrieve his outlay. He fed his household out of the prisoners' rations. He reduced the firing allowance and doubled the hire of furniture. Maybe he foresaw that he was not to enjoy the berth long. He had the right to pass 100 casks of wine into Paris free of duty. He sold it to a wine shop keeper, who got in the best vintage and supplied him for the prisoners with vinegar. The latter had one relief, one pleasure: a little garden made on a bastion, where they got a whiff of sweet air and saw flowers and grass and sunshine. He let this out to a truck gardener, robbing the prisoners for 50 livres a year. On the other hand, he was yielding to rich captives. He let one furnish his room in his own style and have any visitors he liked. For further particulars, see The Bastile Unveiled. For all this, Lannes was brave. He might be pale, but he was calm, although the storm had raged against him from the previous evening. He felt aware of the riot becoming a revolt, for the waves broke at the foot of his castle wall. It is true that he had 4 cannon and a garrison of old soldiers and Swiss, with only one unarmed man confronting him, for Belay had handed his fowling piece to Ange on entering the stronghold. He understood that a weapon might get him into trouble beyond the barrier. With a glance, he remarked everything: the governor's calm and menacing attitude, the Swiss ranked in the guardhouses, the veterans on the platforms, and the silent bustle of the artillerists, loading up their caissons with ammunition. The sentinels had their muskets on their shoulders, and their officers carried drawn swords. As the commander stood still, Belay was obliged to go to him. The grating closed behind the people's parliamentarian with an ugly grinding of metal on metal, which made him shudder to the marrow, brave though he was.
"What do you want again?"
challenged Lanai.
"Again?"
took up Belay.
"It seems to me that this is the first time you have seen me, so that you cannot be very tired of me." "I was told you come from the city hall, and I have just had a deputation from there to get me to promise not to open fire. I promised that much, and so I had the guns drawn in." "I was on the square as you did so, and I—" "You thought that I was giving way to the calls of the crowd?"
"It looked that way," replied the farmer.
"Did I not tell you that they would believe me just such a coward?"
said Lanai, turning round to his officers.
"Who do you come from, then?"
he demanded of Belay.
"I come on behalf of the people,"
rejoined the visitor proudly.
"That is all very well,"
sneered Lanai, smiling.
"But you must have shown some other warrant, for otherwise you would not have passed the first deadline of sentries."
"True, I have a pass from your friend Flicella."
"Flicella? Why do you dub him my friend?"
exclaimed the prison warden, looking at the speaker to read to the bottom of his mind.
"How do you conclude that he is a friend of mine?"
"I supposed as much."
"Is that all? Never mind. Let us see your safe conduct."
Belay presented the paper, which Lanai read more than once, in order to catch a hidden meaning or concealed lines. He even held it up to the light to see if there was secret writing.
"Is that all? Are you perfectly sure? Nothing by word of mouth in addition?"
"Not a bit."
"Strange,"
said Lanai, plunging his glance by a loophole on Bastile Square.
"Then tell me what you want, and be quick."
"The people want you to give up the Bastile."
"What did you say?"
cried Lanai, turning quickly as if he must be mistaken on his hearing.
"I summon you, in the people's name, to give up the Bastile." "Queer animals, the people,"
sneered Lanai, snapping his fingers.
"What do they want with the Bastile?"
"To demolish it."
"Why, what the mischief is the Bastile to the people? Is any common man ever shut up herein? Why, the people ought to bless every stone of the Bastile. Who are locked up here? Philosophers, learned men, aristocrats, statesmen, princes, all the enemies of the dregs."
"This only proves that the people are not selfish and want to do good to others."
"It is plain that you are not a soldier, my friend,"
said the other with a kind of pity.
"It is true, and come fresh from the country." "For you do not know what the Bastile is. Come with me, and I will show you."
"He is going to pull the spring of some trap, which will open beneath my feet," thought the adventurer, "and then good-bye, old Belay." But he was intrepid, and did not wince as he prepared to accede to the invitation.
"In the first place,"
continued Lanai,
"it is well to know that I have enough powder in the store to blow up the castle and lay half the suburbs in ashes."
"I knew that," was the tranquil reply.
"Do you see these cannon? They rake this gallery, which is defended by a guardhouse and by 2 ditches only to be crossed by drawbridges. Lastly, there is a portcullis."
"Oh, I am not saying that the Bastile will be badly defended, but that it will be well attacked."
"To proceed, here is a postern opening on the moats. Observe the thickness of the walls, 40 feet here and 15 above. You see that, though the people have nails, they will break against such walls. I am not saying that the people will demolish the Bastille to master it, but that having mastered it, they will demolish it,"
said the leader of the revolutionists.
"Let us go upstairs,"
said the governor, leading up 30 steps, where he paused to say,
"This embrasure opens on the passage by which you would be bound to come. It is defended by one rampart gun, but it enjoys a fair reputation. You know the song, 'Oh, my sweet-voiced sackbut, I love your dear song.' Certainly I have heard it, but I do not think this is a time to sing it, or anything else. Stay, Marshal Saxe called this gun his sackbut, because it sang the only music he cared anything for. This is a historical fact. But let us go on." "Oh," said Belay, when upon the tower top, "you have not dismounted the cannon, but merely drawn them in. I shall have to tell the people so." "The cannon were mounted here by the king's command, and by that alone can they be dismounted." "Governor Lanai," returned Belay, feeling himself rise to the level of the emergency, "the true sovereign is yonder, and I counsel you to obey it." He pointed to the gray-looking masses, spotted with blood from the night's battling, and reflecting the dying sunlight on their weapons up to the very moats. "Friend, a man cannot know two masters," replied the royalist, holding his head up haughtily. "I, the governor of the Bastille, know but one, the 16th Louis, who put his sign manual at the foot of the patent which made me the commander over men and material here." "Are you not a French citizen?" demanded Belay warmly. "I am a French nobleman," said the Count of Lanai. "True. You are a soldier, and speak like one." "You are right," said the gentleman, bowing. "I am a soldier, and carry out my orders." "Well, I am a citizen," went on Belay, "and as my duty as such is opposed to yours as the king's soldier, one of us must die. He who fulfills his orders or his duties." "That is likely, sir." "So you are determined to fire on the people?" "Not unless I am fired at. I pledge myself to that effect to Lord Provost Flacella's deputation. You see, the guns have been retired, but at the first shot I will roll one, say this one, forward out of the embrasure with my own hands, train it, and point it, and fire with the slow match you see there." "If I believed that," said Belay, "before you could commit such a crime—" "I have told you that I am a soldier, and know nothing outside my orders." "Then look," said Belay, drawing Lanai to the gap in the battlements and pointing alternately in two different directions, the main street from the town and the street through the suburbs. "Behold those who will henceforth give you orders." Lanai saw two black, dense, roaring bodies, undulating like snakes, with head and bodies in sight, but the rearmost coils still waving onwards, till lost in the hollows of the ground.
All the bodies of these immense reptiles glittered with the scales. These were the two armies to which Bellay had given the Bastile as the meeting place, Marat's men and Goncham's beggars. As they surged forward, they brandished their weapons and yelled blood-curdling cries. At the sight, Lanai lost color and said as he raised his cane, "To your guns!" Then, threatening Bellay, he added, "You scoundrel! To come here and gain time under pretense of a parley! Do you know that you deserve death?" Bellay saw the attempt to draw the sword from the cane and pierce him. He seized the speaker by the collar and waistband as swift as lightning, and raising him clear off the ground, he replied, "And you deserve to be hurled down to the bottom of the ditch to be smashed in the mud. But never mind. Thank God I can fight you in another manner." At this instant, an immense howl, a universal one, rose in the air like a whirlwind as Major Losme appeared on the platform. "Oh, sir, for mercy's sake," he said to Bellay, "show yourself, for the people there believe something has happened to you, and they call for you." Indeed, the name of Bellay, set afloat by Pitou, ascended on the clamor. The farmer let go Lanai, who replaced the blade in the stick. The three men hesitated for a moment while the innumerable cries of vengeance and menace arose. "Show yourself, sir," said Lanai, "not because the noise frightens me, but to prove that I have acted fairly." The farmer thrust his head out of the porthole, waving his hand. At this sight the populace burst with cheering. It was, in a measure, revolution standing up in Belay's stead, as this man of the lowest ranks trod the Bastile turret like a master. "That is well, sir," went on Lanai. "Now all is ended between us. You have no further business here. They ask for you below. Go down." Belay appreciated this moderation on the part of a man who had him in his power. He went down by the same stairs, the governor following. The major remained up there as the governor had whispered some orders to him. It was evident that Count Lanai had but one wish, that the bearer of the flag of truce should be his active enemy as soon as possible. Without speaking a word, the envoy crossed the yard, where he saw the cannoneers were at their pieces, and the lint stocks were lighted and smoking. He stopped before them. "Friends," he cried, "remember that I came to your commander to stay the shedding of blood, but that he refused me." "In the king's name, be off from here," said Lanai, stamping his foot. "Have a care," retorted the farmer. "I am ordered out in the king's name, but I shall return in that of the people. Speak out," he added, turning to the Swiss. "Who are you for?" The foreign soldiers were silent. Lanai pointed to the iron door, but Belay attempted a final effort. "Governor, in the name of the nation, in the name of your brothers." "Brothers? Is that what you call them who are bellowing down with the Bastile and death to the governor? They may be brothers of yours, but surely they are none of mine." "Inhumanities, then." "Humanity? Which urges you to come 100,000 strong against 100 hapless soldiers immured in these walls and cut their throats? But by giving up the Bastile, you save their lives." "And I lose my honor." Belay was hushed, for the soldierly argument crushed him. But again he addressed the soldiers, saying, "Surrender, friends, while it is yet time. In another 10 minutes, it will be too late." "I will have you shot unless you are out of this instantly," thundered Lanai. "As true as I am a noble." Belay stopped an instant, folded his arms in token of defiance, and crossing glances for the last time with the exasperated governor, walked forth. End of chapter 11. Recording by John Van Stan, Savannah, Georgia.